Hey, what's up, everybody? Ralph here. So I came across this article on Yahoo News, right? The title is, if there's a recession, don't count on the government to come to the rescue with stimulus checks and boosted unemployment benefits, right? So here's what's been going on, right? For too long, the United States has been running up a credit card balance that with unlimited, running up an unlimited credit card balance, right? They've been able to just print off money with no restrictions, right? If that was anyone, like any regular person, we had a credit card and we were just running up our credit card, either the company, the bank would either just shut us off, it would close our account, or obviously they just wouldn't give us any money. We'd have to eventually stop, right? But with the United States, they're able to just print off money without any regards, right? No one can stop them, no one can check them, and eventually it's coming back for a lot of people. And if you're someone that's been relying on the government for any type of stimulus check or any unemployment, or you've been relying on it from any kind of funds to help pay bills or just to get through, now it's going to be a little bit tough, because now it's coming to a point where the government's like, yeah, we don't have any money, right? And this is a good thing, because we can't keep doing this. If you're wondering why inflation the way it is right now, this is it. We've been able to print too much money for too long, recklessly and with no checks, and now everyone's paying for that, right? And we understand that when there's obviously you have a pandemic coming along and people need help, they're able to, and you're shutting down people's states and their jobs, then you're gonna have to pass some money. But it gets to a point where you can only do so much, because eventually we have to pay for these things. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Everything has to be paid for, right? Even though it feels like a free, they're giving you this money and you're like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about it. Everyone's paying for it, and you can see that now we're paying for it through inflation, right? And you got places like California. I did a video yesterday about how they're about to give some inflation relief checks, stimulus checks, and it's called inflation relief checks. Like it's supposed to help with those struggling with the inflation, even though that these relief checks are going to cause more inflation, right? So based on this article, if you're someone that's relying on the government, you think they're gonna help you with this inflation, you're gonna have to bear down and get to work, right? So to go to the article, it says, boom, for the last quarter century, the federal government has stepped in with some kind of emergency relief when the economy is in the tank. The next recession will likely break from that trend. All right, the dot-com crash of 2001 saw that Bush administration sent 300 stimulus payments of tens of millions of households. Amid the 2008 financial crisis, the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates to a historic low and buoyed financial markets. Then in 2009, former President Barack Obama's first major piece of legislation was an $830 billion package to mitigate the worst of the Great Recession. So as you can see, United States has a history. Every time we go through some type of economic crisis, their goal is to just, here's some money to help you get through. It's just the easy thing to do. Like, people are struggling, let's give money. Because obviously each administration that comes in, they don't want to be seen as the person that's not helping the people, right? Because obviously it's not good for votes. Even though the smart thing would be, tell the American people, look, we got to bear down. All right, we're going through a crisis right now, but the smart thing would be to not just, the wrong thing would be just give out money, because it doesn't help our economy. To say to people, all right, you know what, save up, make sure you're managing your finances correctly, and be able to get through the worst of times, right? Because that's how it works. Like, if I'm going through a crisis, I just can't say, here's my credit card, and just keep swiping because I can't pay for it. No, I got to figure out, I got to reduce expenses, and then, or try to find a way to get some extra money, and try to get and do the best I can to get through that crisis, right? But the United States, their thing is just give more money, but it clearly doesn't always solve the problem. So the response in 2020, as the virus thrust the U.S. into a sudden shutdown, saw that the Fed and Congress support the economy with low rates, emergency lending programs, bigger stimulus checks, and boosted unemployment benefits. People was living off those unemployment benefits, man. People wasn't even going to work because they were getting so much money from the government. So now, as the growing number of economists see another downturn on the horizon, a similar degree of government help isn't expected. Even with inflation at 41-year highs, that's because the looming recession will be one engineered by policymakers in an effort to combat inflation, and it causes leaving big federal relief efforts unlikely. So what they're saying is the recession will be engineered by policymakers. You see what the feds are doing. They're raising interest rates, right? So they're trying to get to a point where they don't raise it too much where it puts us in a recession. But if you talk to a lot of people, some people think we're already in a recession. As of July 1st, we've had 2 quarters of economic, reduction. So that's usually one of the indicators that, we're in a recession. But no one said that yet. No one in the government has said that. So, but a lot of people think we're already in a recession. So where we at? So it says, not helping matters is the fact that the pandemic-era stimulus has recently come under scrutiny for fueling today's inflation. Democrats setting policy on party lines decided on trillions of dollars in reckless spending. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said in the floor speech that touched on inflation earlier this month. Economists are slower to pin full blame on stimulus, citing other factors like Russia's invasion of Ukraine or tangled global supply chains. Still, decades-high inflation might be enough to dissuade even Democrats from pushing aggressive stimulus. And that's the thing they're using. They're saying that this inflation is being caused by the thing that's going on in Russia. But if you've been watching, if you've been paying attention, this inflation has been going up before this whole war with Russia. So obviously the main factor is all this printing of money, all right? Free money going around, devaluing our currency, and just rising prices. So that's a big reason. All right. So another headwind to further relief the fact that the Republicans are expected to retake at least one chamber of Congress in the midterms. That will put into power a party that's already been outspoken about avoiding new spending. These factors are coalescing at a time when the U.S. looks headed for a recession sometime in 2023. Economists fear that the Fed's fastest pace of rate hikes in nearly 3 decades will slam the brakes on economic growth, freezing spending, hitting corporate revenues, and resulting in layoffs, which is already happening, right? Layoffs are already happening. You see places like Tesla, all these, what else? Redfin, all these places they're already laying people off. So that's another indicator of a recession. You see these corporations not hitting their profit margins. So in order to do that, and money is also more expensive to borrow. So you see, in order to make sure they're making the profit margins, you got to cut the most expensive expense, right? And that's usually labor. So that's typical, and you see companies already doing it. Still, the low likelihood of further stimulus may not matter if the economy avoids a recession or only sees a mild one, a forecast held by a range of high-profile pundits. Goldman Sachs wrote on June 20th that there's only a 30% chance that the economy slides into a downturn in the next year. JP Morgan holds a similar rosy outlook, though sees a higher chance of slump over the next 2 years. There's a lot of reason to believe that it would be a mild recession. Jason Furman, a former top economist to President Barack Obama, recently told Inside. He cited that savings many Americans' households built up during the pandemic and the absence of stress on the financial sector. I read the original one. I mean, I'll make this bet. I don't think people saved up enough to get through what's going to happen with this recession. And for me, my advice would be to, obviously, when you're going through something like this economic crisis, the things you want to do is make sure you're financially sound, all right? You want to reduce expenses, all right? You want to make sure you say you built up an emergency fund. If you have a secure job, make sure you do everything you can to secure that. If you don't have a secure job, try to find one. All right, so it's going to be important to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position to get through this storm. All right, a lot of people are going to be able to get through the storm, and there's going to be a lot that aren't, and it all depends on how you are financially. But if you're not financially sound and you're the person that's hoping the government's going to come to the rescue, like I said, man, depending on the government. Being a person that depends on the government, you're going to eventually get disappointed because they're not here to help you. Their goal is not to help you, right? They want to maintain power. They want to make sure they're staying in power to gain votes. And having to rely on them is a recipe for failure, right? You got to make sure that you put yourself in position because you're in control of your life financially. So you want to make sure you're doing that, doing everything you can, setting a emergency fund, making sure that you're reducing expenses, and just making sure you're financially sound, right? So that's all I got for you guys today. All right, make sure if you got any comments or questions, make sure to leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share, and please do not forget to subscribe, right? So you guys take care, have a good one. Later.